welcome to Into Me OC magazine, and our very special guest is Amir Zoghi in Bondi Beach in Sydney. And it was really, really important for us to be introducing you to Amir, who you've probably met through every one of our issues so far through the Truth of the Day. But it was actually through Amir that both Natalie and I met through one of his very powerful programs, and I really wanted to introduce you to who I call Mr. Authentic himself, and of course talk about the authentic swing in life, and really how that came about for you, Amir. So welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jodie. Good to be chatting with you.
Yeah, it's nice to catch up after all this time, and we first met back in 2009, I worked out the other day.
Really? Yeah, well,
Yes,
there you go. It's been a few years.
it has. So, yeah, even back then too, it's like first time I met you, you're a little bit of a chubby boy back then too, and now you're this slim, svelte fitness guru. Is that part of your
Yeah.
authentic swing?
Can you see the guns?
There they are.
No, yeah, I've had a huge transformation, not just spiritually and mentally, but physically. And yeah, you mentioned we're talking about authentic swing, and I think that as we fall more and more into our authentic self, we fall more and more into what I like to call our authentic swing, which is really the flow or being in the zone. And let's first look at this word authentic and what it actually means authentic, because the moment someone hears the word authentic, they may refer to as being good or and not being bad or anything like that. But it actually has nothing to do with that. For me, my definition of authenticity is to live with an absence of an agenda. So when you're living and doing what's true for you, and when you're doing what's true for you, you're doing it without an agenda. And if you take the agenda away, you actually experience someone's authenticity. And a lot of the times in our life, we create blockages because we place our attention on the agenda. And most people know what it is they love to do, and there's people that don't know what they love to do. And but the thing is, when someone does know what they love to do, they start to do it, and along the way, their attention gets swayed with the agendas. Oh wow, I can make more money. Oh wow, I'm really good at this, and I've got this in the bag, and starts to place their attention on their ego, and those little agendas keep taking us away from our authenticity. It's such a powerful thing being authentic, because any blockages in someone's life is always based on someone's agendas that are playing out. People always ask me, Amir, I sabotage myself, and I just go search into their life and do the coaching session and see where they have their agendas. Because when you don't have an agenda, you cannot self sabotage. Someone who self sabotages is someone who's got an agenda. You don't self sabotage yourself when you're doing what's true for you. When you're doing something that's driven by an agenda, then you have all these experiences of blockages, all these experiences of self sabotage, and you're experiencing going up, and then you experience going down, and all that kind of jazz.
Well, that is just making me wonder, and it was something I'd actually thought about before giving you a call today, was do you feel that it's possible to actually be authentically in your ego? It's sort of like there's living authentically, and there is, yes, there is when you tap in or experience your own authentic swing. It's sort of like for you, your authentic swing is speaking, and we've just seen an example of that. You just go into the flow. And if I was to say to you, what did you just say? You probably go, oh, I'm not sure, like listen to the recording. Because
Yeah.
your swing or your flow happens. Do you feel that there is an authentic aspect to perhaps if we're unconsciously in our ego?
No, I don't. Because here's the thing: your ego is a part of you that is born when you perceive to be separate from who you truly are. So you see, I believe that what we're really looking for in life is ourselves. And, underneath all your goals and purposes, and to be loved and to be appreciated and to have security, all that is to be loved. I mean, if you think about it, when you're experiencing love, you feel safe, security, you feel appreciated, you feel recognized, you feel, significance, all those kind of things you feel when you're loved. And I feel that that is who we're really looking for at the end of the day. But the thing is, what gets in the way of realizing that, which is, I mean, the only place that you can realize who you truly are is within yourself. If you to realize who you are eternally, you have to realize that internally. The thing is, though, that the ego comes in the way, and the ego is the part of you that has an agenda. Now, its agenda is to have recognition, appreciation, acceptance, approval, and security, which is all a form of love. And when I say it's a form of love, it's a love that's found in the physical world. It's a love that is temporary. So the ego is the part of you that's looking for love in all the wrong places, if you like. And where the ego gets ugly is where its control element comes in, because it knows that if you don't find love, you won't be here. You will die. There's a great story that I sometimes tell in my WTF experience program, and it's about it's a famous story about a Nazi concentration camp. And in this Nazi concentration camp, they took the newborn babies away from their mothers to do an experiment. And they did the experiment over, I think it's over 60 children, and they put them to two different groups. And one set of group, both groups, they gave all the human necessities, physical, like I'm talking about oxygen, nutrients, and, all that kind of stuff, lights. But one set of babies, they actually didn't give them any touch. They actually didn't give them any love. The babies that didn't give any love and didn't get held, they died. All of them died, which proves the point that at the end of the day, what every single human being, or if you like, the physical side of you, the ego part of you, what it's looking for is actually love. But it's looking for love in all the wrong places. When I say wrong places, it's looking for it from the physical world. And why I say it's the wrong, because there's no wrong, but what I say it's the wrong places is because the love that you receive from the physical is temporary. It's a love that you realize internally that's eternal. And so what my point is that your ego is the part of you that has an agenda. It has an agenda. Everything that it does, underneath all the goals, under everything that you do in your world, your purpose, your goal, if you peel the onion layers back, it is to receive a form of love, whether it's to gain security. And again, when you feel love, you feel safe. So it's a form of love. Whether it's to have appreciation, recognition, to have significance of some sort, or to be accepted. These are all forms of love. So those are the things that your ego is looking for. And where you see the ugly side of the ego is when the ego comes into its control elements. And it wants to control things to ensure that you get loved, whether it's through a positive or a negative manner. Sometimes people do negative things and nasty things in this world just to get recognized, which is, again, a form of love. Now, is that real love? No, it's not real love. It's a form of love. Any love that's received temporarily is never real love. It's a human-made love. It's a physical love. So here's the thing. So what I'm saying to you is that it is the ego that has an agenda to be loved. Your true part of you, your grand part of you, your expanded self, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't need to be loved because it already is love. Something that is loved does not look to love itself. It already is loved. So because the ego perceives to be separate from who it truly is, it is then searching for love in all the wrong places. And that's what creates the agenda. That's where your agendas come from. Now, as I said to you before at the beginning, when you're experiencing authenticity, there's no agenda. The ego has an agenda. So the ego is never authentic. It's not authentic whatsoever. So I know that I kind of had to go around the loop to give you the whole perspective there. But
but I'm really glad you did, because that was I think that's one of the tricks of the ego, is to sort of say, well, I'm being authentic at the moment. It can take that label or that identity as such. So from what you've just said to me, authenticity is equaling, or it is an expression of love itself. So authenticity equals love, in an equation to a degree as well. Would you agree with that, or?
Absolutely. I think authenticity comes, love flows through you when someone's authentic. When someone's authentic, when you're dealing with someone's authentic, you feel open. You don't feel closed. Love
So
opens people up.
would that include, other, I guess, human emotions that we are aware of, such as vulnerability, surrender, etc.? Is that a way to tap into our authenticity? Is that what the ego tries to stop us from doing?
The ego is continuously looking not for resolution. It's just looking for more story, because the ego is building its identity through the story. Now, whether the story is a positive or negative, it doesn't care. It will create positive or negative stories, because through those stories, it's building its existence. And if you think about it, talking a little bit about the ego, this is where I guess this is going. But where the ego is the part of you that is continuously looking to build its existence through the physical world, through the world of separation. And it builds its existence through positive and negative charges. So it continuously looks for positive and negative things. And the love that I'm talking about that's internal is not positive or negative. It's like the positive and negative coming together. That spark is that love that I'm talking about. So the ego is looking to build its identity through the positive and negative. The reason why it's building its identity or its reality is because the ego doesn't actually hold on for it. It actually doesn't exist. It's the biggest thing that we make up in our own mind. It's something that we build here, because the moment we perceive to be this physical reality, then we build this thing called the ego, and to build control and to ensure that we have all those things: recognition, appreciation, acceptance, approval, and security. But if you think about it, the part of you that's looking to build this existence is the part of you that actually doesn't exist. Because if you actually existed, you wouldn't need to try to build your existence. So the ego is continuously building its existence through the story. So it's always looking to just make it doesn't want to get any conclusion. Although what drives you is, I'm trying to get a conclusion here. But you never get a conclusion. It just weaves itself through the story, and every time you get a conclusion, then you look at the next conclusion. The ego's like, well, I've got to look for the next thing. I've got to look for the next. It never wants to arrive. But your authentic self, the part of you that has no agenda, it's already arrived. It lives in this present moment, and the ego continuously weaves itself through past stories and through future ideals.
Yeah, okay. So if you could give us an example then, so somebody who is saying, yes, I 100% resonate with everything you're saying, Amir, and of course we highly recommend that they come along to Intuitive Warrior and WTF Experience, and of course they can experience that online now as well. But for me, the question that would
You know,
arise,
you know, I give that all for free now, all online.
and you've blown my mind with it, and it's like absolutely amazing. But we'll talk about that in a little bit as well, because I really want to share my experience of that on this call, because it's important for you to hear that too, I feel. But right now, if I was just listening to what you had said, and I'm like, yep, I resonate, I get it, I'm with you. How do I allow, let's say, my authentic swing or my authentic self to show? Can you tell me how it happened for you? I mean, if somebody watches your program, they'll learn that you weren't a very confident speaker as such when you first started sharing a message. So how did you go beyond that?
It's a big question that I get asked all the time. Wherever I get interviewed, it's that, how do I apply this? How do I live this? And the funny thing is, everything that I'm sharing with people is very opposite to how they think, because the question is, how do you not be authentic? I mean, because when you're being more authentic, the funny thing is, it is actually more easier to be authentic than to carry on all these different heaviness and all these different masks and all these different games that we have to wear and play. It takes more energy and more power to be non-authentic than it does to be authentic. And
Whew, that's
so,
relief.
but it's true. If you think about anyone who thinks about this, and then when they actually were open and were authentic, they just feel like, oh my God, that was just so easy. Like, you've built this idea that, the ego is looking continuously for, well, how do I be authentic? It's listening to this conversation and going, well, what do I need to do? It's not about doing anything. It's about undoing all the doings and just getting back to your heart and just being your natural self. Never forget when I asked when I was younger, maybe around 18, 19, I had a mentor of mine that said to me, Amir, what does it mean for you to be successful? And, she was asking a whole group of people about what it meant to be successful. And everyone's like, oh, I want to do this and I want to drive this car and I want to have this family and I want to travel the world. And I went to one of those typical answers, but then something came over me when I went to answer and I just went, you know what? I would feel successful if I can just let this feeling that's inside of me to come out. I think if I can be myself, who I am in my skin, and be comfortable with that, no matter what, no matter who I'm with, if I can just be myself, I think I have arrived, because that is freedom, the sense of freedom we keep thinking we're looking for. We keep thinking it's in what we do, it's in what we have, but freedom is right now. It's in you. It's in you being you. It's just so freeing. And I just thought, if I could just be me, like hell, like that's heaven for me. That's just bliss. And it was so difficult because I was just like, I don't know how to let this person inside of me come out. And when I said that, all these tears came out, and everyone in the room was just like, oh my God, like what's he talking about? But now I know. I reflect back and go, now I know what I was talking about. I just wanted to let out this authentic self. You think it's more difficult, and you look at, well, what do I need to do to let it out? And you're looking for processes and tools and techniques on how I can let my authentic self out. But really, it's the processes and tools and techniques are things for the ego to actually manipulate and bringing out a version of your authentic self. It's not the authentic self doesn't need a tool or technique. It's like, falling in love does not need a tool or technique. You did not use a tool or technique to fall in love. It just happened. So, and it's very easy. It just naturally happens. And you kind of had no choice. You're just falling in love with the person. So that's the same thing about falling into your authentic self. It's just like falling in love with yourself.
Love it.
It's just like being yourself.
Yeah. Falling in is exactly it. And I love the way that you said remember as well. It's like remembering or reflecting back to being 18 or 19, having that experience, and the tears came as such of just wanting to be able to express or feel, that element of success for you. Very similar in the sense of when I first met you, sitting in a workshop with, a dozen other people, and all we were doing, we're going around the room, you were saying, hi, I'm Amir, who are you? Like, tell me a little bit about you before we get started on this 2-day program. And you went around, and I might have been the last or the second last, and I said, oh, hi, I'm Jodie, and I just started crying. And you're looking at me going, why are you crying? And I can honestly say, I have no idea other than this feeling. This feeling was like I was finally going to be able to be me. And
Yeah.
it was emotional, it was emotional to be able to be, reflecting in that presence of you, to be able to, and it was such an eye-opening experience. I mean, yeah, I think remembering not only the moment that happened for me or the moment that it happened for you at 18 or 19, the word remember is where it comes up for me in that whole aspect of all living your authentic self. Just remember who you are.
Yeah, that's a key thing. It's remembering. You don't need to develop yourself. You don't need to find yourself, because the part of you that finds itself is the part of you that already knows itself. You're just remembering. It's not a development. You don't need to develop. You develop skills. You don't develop who you are. Who you are is already whole and complete. Your authentic self is already there. You don't need to. It is simply a remembrance process. You're remembering who you are, and as I'm speaking right now, there is some people who will resonate with this, and they will say to themselves in their heart, they will feel this. I don't know what he's saying, but something what he's saying sounds familiar. It sounds like home, because it resonates a frequency, and they just go, that feels familiar. It feels like I know this. It feels it to be true, and it feels like I've always known this to be true. And it's because they're remembering. There's a part of them that's remembering, going, yeah, that's familiar.
Yeah, it's a very powerful thing. I mean, even just say remembering in my experience of meeting you that first time, I started feeling quite emotional again. It was like, wow, it's still there. It is that frequency. It sits in the heart so deeply. And that was really why I wanted to personally not just share your wealth of wisdom and love to the world through our magazine in this interview, but also say thank you so much for creating your site, your membership site, to be able to share the entire 2 day program and 1 day program of Intuitive Warrior and WTF. Can you tell us a little bit more about what each of those programs are and why it is that you've decided to share those recordings with the world?
Yeah, these programs are my foundational work. The stuff that I've been delivering for the last 6 or 7 years, and I travel all around the world, from New Zealand to Sydney to Brisbane to Melbourne to New York to Los Angeles to Auckland. I was just starting in Perth, but I travel all these different cities, and I present the both these programs, the Intuitive Warrior program and the WTF Experience. And we share all this work for free, and just really inspired to also be able to share it online to the cities that I don't get to. So we've got people from all around the world watching these two events, and a little about these two programs. The Intuitive Warrior is like a 2 to 3 hour evening that's been recorded, so people can go and watch that, and it's all about how to use your intuition and bring out your authentic self, the flow, the zone, and all that kind of stuff that we've briefly touched on at the moment. But the foundation or the signatory program is the WTF experience, which actually stands for the Wisdom, Truth, or Freedom Experience. But most people like to call it the What the Fuck Experience,
Well,
if I can say
I
that.
can tell you, after doing the WTF experience, it pretty much is, what the fuck am I doing?
Well, originally, originally it used to be called the Quest for Truth, and we just used to get so many people going, "What the beep?" What the fuck, and we just went, they were no longer having aha moments, they were having what the fuck moments. So we just said, we got to call this the WTF program. So the WTF experience. So we changed the name only recently, and we named it the WTF experience, the Wisdom, Truth, and Freedom Experience.
Yeah.
And people will say, what the fuck? They will, it absolutely blows them away. It's unlike any other program. This program is the end to many searches, because you realize that the search that you've been seeking for is not outside of yourself, it's within yourself. It's not that they come to this weekend or watch this weekend online and actually, become enlightened or anything. It's that they come to this weekend and they find or remember, if you like, that a part of themselves that's always been there, and they feel that's what they've been looking for, and they feel that inside of themselves. And it's a very moving, transformative experience. It's unlike any other program because it's not about fixing, improving, or changing your life. It's about like I said, I feel that every single person is actually looking for themselves. They just don't know that. They're looking for it in the story, in their goals and their ambitions. But in the goals and ambitions, it's actually themselves they're looking for. And this program is about coming back home to yourself and really being your authentic self. And
The funny thing is saying that it's not about fixing, changing, improving anything in your life, and yet it is uh, life changing. You know,
absolutely, it does. I mean, it's the thing is the part of you that's looking to fix, improve, or change things is the part of you that's in judgment, which is your ego. So you can't fix, improve, or change anything that you're in judgment of. So because the moment you have a judgment, you reinforce it as real. So when you have a problem, you try to fix, improve, or change a problem, you make that problem more reinforced. So people don't know that. But the thing is, when you start to realize who you are, the problem is no longer a problem. Yeah, and I can't explain that to you, but it's not. It's not that it's not a problem. It's just that it becomes irrelevant. And the funny thing is, the moment it becomes irrelevant, that's when things change. You know, I mean, think about it. How many times have you really, really worked hard towards a goal? You put your blood, sweat, and tears, and it just ain't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. And you let go and go, you know what, this is not going to happen. And the moment you let it go, boom, it transforms. The goal materializes. It's just, it's kind of like that. So
Well, we've had a
it's
direct experience of that recently, and I can honestly say I would not be sitting here in this absolutely amazing apartment in London. We're actually house sitting and pet sitting for 3 weeks here, then moving over to France for nearly 5 months to take care of an amazing property in southwest France, and
wow, good for you.
also just being able to live the life of freedom, truth, and the collective wisdom is coming through the Into Me I See magazine. These are all just expressions of both me and Natalie, and none of it would have ever manifested, unfolded, created itself if it hadn't have been for the former Quest for Truth experience, which is now the WTF experience. And Amir, we can't thank you enough, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you here as a featured article in the Authenticity issue, which of course is your signature. And every month people get to experience a truth of the day, and of course we highly encourage everyone comes along and watch those videos or get to a live event. Nothing beats the live event, and don't just go once. My suggestion is come to a live event and then support yourself with the online videos, because every time, I think I've been like 6 times now, and every single time I've had the experience, I've had a new experience of myself, and a more opening of myself that of course has led to where we are right now.
Every time I get that all the time, I get people coming back over and over again. And the amazing thing is that every time they come back with less ego.
Yeah.
So every time they come back, they drop in far deeper to actually having a direct experience of what I'm actually saying in that weekend. And I really thank you, Jodie, for helping me to transform and pass this on to other people. And people can just go straight to my website. If they want to watch it online, they can just go to amirzoghi.com. Otherwise, they can go and register to come to a free live event by going to befreepeople.com.
Yeah,
give you those two sites.
We'll have all the links available on this page, and of course every month on the Truth of the Day page of the magazine, we've got everything there so that people can come and have a direct experience. And even if hopefully with meeting you now and feeling your energy and feeling your love as well, it's just that final reminder to just go do it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Amir. Absolute pleasure. And you take care of yourself, and we look forward to seeing you in Europe and UK soon to fully round out the globe for you, hey?
Yeah, that's the next place to go.
Yay.
Thanks, Jodie. I appreciate it.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.